Captain Daeho Kim thought he was prepared for anything. 3 years of negotiations. A historic trade deal that could revolutionize Earth's future. All he had to do was hand over humanity's art, every painting, every song, every story in exchange for technology beyond imagination. It seemed simple, until he rescued them. A Valori mother and her daughter. Lyra, a child cursed with a gift so rare, only 1 in a million possessed it. She could feel art, not analyze it, not price it, feel it. But now, the consortium has issued their order. Tomorrow, they will surgically remove Lyra's ability to experience beauty. They will take away what makes her soul alive. And Captain Kim has exactly one night to decide. Does he sacrifice Earth's greatest alliance to save one alien child's heart? Or does he let them destroy the very thing that makes life worth living? The cargo bay of the Eternal Dawn hummed with the low vibration of hyperspace engines as Captain Daeho Kim reviewed the trade proposals on his holographic display. 3 years of diplomatic negotiations had led to this moment, a historic meeting with the Valori Consortium, one of the most powerful economic alliances in this sector of the galaxy. His crew had prepared everything meticulously, cataloging Earth's exports, rare minerals, manufactured goods, agricultural products, and a comprehensive archive of human artistic works. Spanning 10,000 years, the Valori had been fascinated by humanity's cultural output when first contact occurred. They had requested samples, paintings, music, literature, films, and the response from their leadership had been overwhelming. Now they wanted to purchase the entire archive, offering technology that could revolutionize Earth's energy production and medical capabilities. It seemed like a perfect exchange, except for one small problem that Daeho knew would complicate everything. The conference room materialized around him as the simulation ended. His second officer, Lieutenant Eunji Park, stood near the viewport, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace. She turned to face him, her expression troubled. "Captain, I've been going through the Valori contracts again. They want exclusive rights to all the art we provide. That means once we hand it over, humans won't be able to share it with anyone else." Daeho nodded slowly. He had noticed the same clause buried in the legal language. They don't understand what they're asking for. To them, art is just another commodity, information to be bought and sold. Before Yoonji could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Red emergency lights bathed the corridor as alarms screamed through the vessel. Daeho's communicator crackled to life with the panicked voice of his pilot. "Captain, we've got a distress signal. Small vessel, Valori design, under attack by raiders. They're 3 minutes from complete hull breach. Years of military training took over. Change course immediately. Battle stations. Get me visual." The viewport shifted, showing a sleek silver ship being pummeled by 3 larger vessels. Weapon fire lit up the darkness of space like deadly fireworks. The Valori ship was luxury class, probably diplomatic transport, and it was dying. 2 life signs aboard, reported the tactical officer. 1 adult, 1 juvenile. Raiders are ignoring hails. Daeho didn't hesitate. "Lock weapons. Warning shots first." The Eternal Dawn might have been a diplomatic vessel, but humanity had learned to arm their ships after encountering the harsher realities of galactic politics. The raiders scattered when human plasma cannons painted the void with brilliant blue fire. Unwilling to test their luck against an unknown ship with superior firepower, the rescue took 12 minutes of careful maneuvering. The Valori ship's airlock had been compromised, so Daeho suited up personally, taking Yoonji and 2 security officers with him. They cut through twisted metal and found the survivors huddled in an emergency shelter atoll. Elegant female Valori with skin like polished amethyst and large luminous eyes. Clutching a smaller version of herself protectively, the child was injured. green blood seeping from a gash across her shoulder. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 in human years, her eyes wide with terror. The adult, likely her mother, spoke rapidly in Valori, her voice harmonious but desperate. Deho didn't need translation software to understand the plea for help. "We've got you," he said gently. Knowing his tone would convey meaning, even if words didn't, he carefully reached for the child, and after a moment of hesitation, the mother allowed him to take her. The small Valori was surprisingly light, her skin cool to the touch even through his gloves. She trembled in his arms as they transported both survivors back to the eternal dawn. The medical bay became a flurry of activity. Dr. Ba Choi worked efficiently, her training in xenobiology proving invaluable. The child's injury, while bloody, wasn't life-threatening once properly treated. The mother remained at her daughter's side, her 3-fingered hand clutching the child's smaller one. Deho stood nearby, watching as the fear slowly drained from the young Valori's eyes. She looked at him with curiosity now, tilting her head in a gesture that seemed universal across species. She spoke something in her musical language, and the mother activated a translation device clipped to her elegant robes. "My daughter, Lyra, asked why you saved us. She has heard stories that humans are dangerous." The captain crouched down to the child's level, meeting her enormous eyes. "We help people who need help. That's what we believe in." He gestured around the medical bay, where human crew members worked alongside the doctor. Every person here would have done the same thing. The mother's expression shifted, something like surprise or wonder. "I am Counselor Venna. I was traveling to meet you, Captain Kim, for the trade negotiations." The raiders knew this, I think. There are those who do not want humans and Valori to reach agreement. Over the next 2 days, as the ship continued toward the Valori homeworld, Deho found himself spending more time with their rescued passengers. Lyra's fear transformed into fascination, especially after discovering the ship's recreation room where crew members relaxed during off hours. She stood transfixed before a wall displaying paintings from Earth, her eyes tracking each brushstroke with intense concentration. "She has the gift," Venna explained, standing beside Deho as they watched the child. "Among our people, perhaps 1 in a million can perceive art the way she does. It is a rare sensitivity, and it has made her both precious and lonely. Most Valori process visual information differently. We appreciate aesthetics, but we do not feel them as she does." Deho watched Lyra trace her fingers near a reproduction of Van Gogh's Starry Night, careful not to touch but clearly longing to. What happens to children like her? They become cultural analysts, typically. They evaluate artistic works for the consortium, determining commercial value. Venna's tone suggested this fate wasn't entirely happy. Lyra will spend her life telling others what beauty is worth in trade negotiations. Something about that explanation bothered him, but before he could articulate why, Lyra turned and spoke directly to him. Her words came through the translator in a child's earnest voice. "Captain, why does this painting make my heart feel too big for my body? Like I want to cry and laugh together?" He sat down on the floor beside her, ignoring the surprised look from Venna. "That's what great art does. It makes you feel things you can't put into words." The man who painted that was sad a lot of his life, but he could see beauty everywhere. He wanted to share that with people. But in our files, it says he only traded 3 paintings while alive. How is that sharing? Lyra's question was innocent, but it struck at something fundamental. He made it for himself first, and for everyone second. The sharing isn't about selling. It's about the feeling you have right now. That connection across time and space between your heart and his. Nobody can buy that or sell it. It just exists. Venna's expression grew troubled. The translation device captured her soft words. "You believe art belongs to everyone?" "Of course. Once something beautiful is created, it belongs to the universe. The artist might own the physical painting, But the feeling it creates? That's free. Daeho stood, brushing off his uniform. Why do you ask? The counselor didn't answer immediately. She looked at her daughter, who had returned her attention to the paintings, now examining a photograph of Earth's oceans. Captain, we need to discuss the trade agreement before we reach Valori Prime. I fear there has been a fundamental misunderstanding. In his ready room, over cups of tea that humans found delicious and Valori found merely interesting, Venna explained the true nature of their proposed deal. The consortium didn't want to buy copies of human art. They wanted to purchase the concept of ownership itself. Every painting, every song, every story would become Valori property, with humanity required to seek permission and pay licensing fees to access their own cultural heritage. It is standard practice, Venna explained, her luminous eyes reflecting the stars outside the viewport. Throughout the galaxy, artistic works are commodities. The consortium owns the cultural output of 47 species. We preserve it, catalog it, and make it available for appropriate fees. It is a very profitable arrangement. Daeho felt cold spreading through his chest. You want to buy human culture and sell it back to us? You would retain access to previously distributed works, naturally. But all future creations would be consortium property. In exchange, your species receives technology worth more than your current economy. It is an excellent trade. No. The word came out flat and hard. Venna tilted her head. Captain, you have not consulted with your government. This requires deliberation, surely. I don't need to ask anyone. The answer is no. Art isn't property. You can't own a sunset or copyright the sound of rain. What humans create comes from our souls. We share it because sharing makes us human, not because we want profit. For the first time, the counselor's composed expression cracked, showing genuine confusion. But art has no intrinsic value. It is only worth what the market determines. You would reject advanced technology for something intangible. Yes, every single time, forever. Daeho leaned forward. You have 47 species whose art belongs to you. Do any of them still create anything new? The silence stretched between them. Venna's skin shifted to a darker purple, which his translation software noted indicated distress. They produce commissioned works. Under contract. That's not creation. That's manufacturing. He pulled up files on his display, showing images of human street art, amateur musicians, children's drawings hanging on refrigerators. This is why your people wanted our art in the first place. Because it's alive. It's messy and passionate and free. The moment you put a price tag on the human soul, it stops being human. Venna stood abruptly. The consortium will not accept this refusal lightly. The negotiation team expects agreement. There are economic alliances at stake. Then I guess we'll make new alliances with species who understand that some things aren't for sale. The counselor left, her robes flowing behind her like water. Daeho sat alone in his ready room, wondering if he'd just committed humanity to diplomatic isolation. But he thought of Lyra's face as she discovered Van Gogh. That moment of pure connection across centuries, and knew he'd made the right choice. Over the next day, he saw little of Venna. But Lyra found excuses to visit the recreation room constantly. His crew, charmed by the curious young alien, showed her their personal collections, photos from home, music they'd composed, poetry written during long night watches. She absorbed it all with wonder. Lieutenant Eunji found him watching Lyra teach a human crew member a Valori song, their voices blending in harmony. The crew supports you, Captain. Word has spread about the trade terms. They're angry. It's not anger we need. It's alternatives. Daeho had been thinking hard about this problem. Humanity came to space believing we'd share cultures, not auction them. We assumed others thought the same way. Maybe some do, Yoonji suggested. Maybe we just haven't found them yet. The Eternal Dawn entered Valori space, and a diplomatic escort arrived to guide them to the homeworld. Daeho prepared for an unpleasant confrontation, reviewing his arguments and hoping Earth's government would support his decision. He'd sent detailed reports, but responses from home were days away at these distances. What he didn't expect was Lyra appearing at his quarters late in the sleep cycle, tears streaming down her face, her mother behind her looking more distressed than he'd yet seen. Through halting translation and obvious emotion, Venna explained the situation. The consortium has learned of your refusal. They are displeased. As a demonstration of their seriousness, they have ordered all cultural analysts, including Lyra, to undergo a procedure. It suppresses emotional response to art, making evaluations more objective and profitable. Venna's voice broke. They will take away her ability to feel beauty tomorrow. The rage that filled Daeho was cold and focused. Like hell they will. Captain, this is our law, our society. I cannot refuse without losing everything: my position, my family's standing, perhaps even custody of my daughter. Venna looked defeated in a way that transcended species. I thought I came to negotiate for my people. Now I realize I do not know what my people have become. Lyra spoke directly, her child's voice thick with tears but determined. Captain, if they take away what I feel, will the paintings still be beautiful? He knelt beside her, taking her small hands in his. The paintings will always be beautiful, but you won't be able to feel it anymore. And that's not right. That's not okay. I do not want to lose this feeling, even if it makes me different, even if others do not understand. She looked at her mother. Even if it means we cannot go home. The implications of that statement hung in the air. Daeho looked at Venna, seeing the conflict in her eyes: duty against love, society against soul. He made a decision that would change everything. The Eternal Dawn is a human vessel. That makes it human territory under galactic law. As captain, I have the authority to grant political asylum to anyone who requests it. He kept his eyes on Venna. If you ask, I can protect you both. But you'd be giving up your life here. Your position. Everything familiar. Venna trembled, her skin shifting through shades of purple and blue that indicated deep emotional turmoil. What would we do? Where would we go? Earth. We have a saying: give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. We've always welcomed those seeking freedom, especially freedom to feel, to create, to be fully alive. He smiled at Lyra. And we have more art galleries than you could visit in a lifetime. The child looked up at her mother with pleading eyes. Whatever Venna saw there must have decided her, because she straightened and her skin settled into a deep, resolute indigo. I formally request political asylum under human protection for myself and my daughter. Daeho activated his communicator. Lieutenant Park, please prepare 2 cabins for permanent passengers. We're going home. The next hours were chaos. The Valori diplomatic escort demanded Venna's return. Trade negotiations collapsed entirely. Threats were made and ignored. The Eternal Dawn maintained defensive posture, while Daeho calmly explained that humanity would not surrender. Refugees to a society that surgically removed people's ability to experience beauty through all of it. Lyra sat in the recreation room, surrounded by human crew members who showed her their artwork, played her their music, and shared their stories. She was learning that art wasn't about value or profit. It was about connection, about saying, I exist and I feel things, and having someone respond, I understand. When Earth's response finally arrived, it was unequivocal. The President herself appeared on the view screen, her expression stern but her eyes warm. Captain Kim, you are authorized to offer full asylum and Earth citizenship to Counselor Venna and her daughter. Furthermore, humanity officially withdraws from trade negotiations with the Valori Consortium. We will seek relationships with civilizations that understand culture cannot be bought. The diplomatic ramifications would take years to sort out. Some species sided with the consortium, viewing humans as irrational and unprofitable partners. But others, especially younger civilizations, quietly reached out. They too had felt pressured to commodify their cultures, to sell their souls for technological advantage. Humanity's refusal sparked something across the galaxy, a whispered resistance. A growing movement. Deho found Vena on the observation deck as Earth came into view, blue and green and impossibly beautiful. Lyra pressed her face against the viewport, her eyes wide with wonder. "Your planet looks like a painting," she whispered. "Wait until you see the sunsets," Deho replied. "Or the northern lights. Or the way moonlight reflects on the ocean. Earth is full of beauty no one can buy or sell." Vena stood beside him, and for the first time since he'd met her, she smiled, genuinely, fully. "Captain, I must apologize. When I first met you, I believed you were simply a soldier following orders. Now I understand you are something rarer, a protector of things that cannot protect themselves. I just did what was right." "No," she shook her head. "You sacrificed economic alliance, political standing, and technological advancement to defend the idea that some things have value beyond price. That is not simply right. That is extraordinary." Over the following weeks, as Vena and Lyra adjusted to Earth, Deho watched them slowly relax into a life they'd never imagined possible. They settled in a coastal city where artists gathered to paint the sea. Lyra enrolled in school and discovered human children who wanted to show her their drawings, not analyze their market value. Vena began writing about her experiences, her words translated and shared freely across human networks. Deho was preparing for another mission when Vena contacted him. They met at a small cafe overlooking the ocean, autumn wind bringing the smell of salt and change. She looked different now, more color in her skin, less tension in her shoulders. Earth had been good for her. "I wanted to thank you properly," she said after they ordered coffee and tea. "You gave us more than asylum. You gave us back the ability to simply exist without being commodified. You would have found your way. You already knew something was wrong. You just needed permission to act on it. Perhaps." She looked at him carefully. "May I ask you something personal, Captain?" "Deho, we're not on the ship anymore." "Deho, then. Why did you risk so much for us? You had just met Lyra and me. Your entire species' relationship with a galactic power was at stake. Yet you chose us." He thought about that for a long moment, watching waves crash against the shore. "You want the honest answer?" When Lyra asked why the painting made her heart feel too big for her body, I saw exactly what your society was about to destroy. That capacity for wonder, for connection, for feeling things beyond practical value. That's what makes life worth living. If humanity survives 1,000,000 years in space and builds an empire across the galaxy, but we lose that along the way, then what's the point? Vena reached across the table, placing her 3-fingered hand over his. It was an intimate gesture among her people, he'd learned. A sign of deep trust. "My people have a legend about beings called the first artists who painted the universe into existence. I always thought it was just mythology. But meeting humans, I wonder if perhaps your species carries some of that original creative fire. We're just people trying to figure things out. We make mistakes constantly, but we know art matters. Love matters. Beauty matters. Some lessons you can't learn from technology or trade agreements." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun paint the sky in colors no trade deal could ever capture. Lyra joined them eventually, running up the beach path with a human friend, both children laughing about something important only to them. She held a drawing she'd made, a spaceship surrounded by stars, with two figures standing at its window looking toward a blue planet. "It is us," she explained proudly, showing it to Daeho. "When you saved us. When everything changed." He studied the drawing carefully, seeing it through her eyes, the artistic expression of a pivotal moment, rendered with all the imperfect beauty of a child's honest emotion. "This is wonderful, Lyra. Are you going to sell it?" She looked confused, then laughed, understanding his joke. "No, I am going to give it to you. Because that is what art is for. Sharing feelings, not making money. In that case, I accept gratefully. I'll hang it on my ship so everyone can see it." Venna watched the exchange with something unreadable in her expression. After Lyra ran off to play again, the counselor spoke quietly. "Daeho, I need to tell you something. When we first met, I viewed you as a means to an end, a human captain who could be negotiated with. Now, after these months on Earth, after watching how you value connection over profit, beauty over utility, I find myself feeling things I did not expect." His heart rate picked up slightly. "What kind of things?" "The kind that make me understand why humans write poetry about moments like these." She smiled, a gesture she'd learned from humans and adapted to her own features. "The kind that make me hope when your next mission ends, you might return to this cafe, to this conversation, to me." Daeho looked at her, truly looked, seeing not the alien diplomat but the person who had chosen freedom over security, who valued her daughter's joy over her own status, who was learning to live rather than simply exist. "I think I'd like that very much. Even knowing that loving me would be complicated, that our species are different, our lives structured differently, our futures uncertain. Venna, my entire career has been about navigating the space between different worlds, finding common ground where others see only gaps. If I can help bridge the distance between species, I think I can handle dating someone whose biology textbook is a bit different from mine." She laughed, a sound like crystal chimes that was entirely her own. "Dating, such a human word. We have something similar in my language, though it translates more as learning each other's rhythms. I like that better." He stood, offering his hand. "Want to walk on the beach? Learn some rhythms?" They walked as the sun set, painting the sky in shades that had never been commodified, never been priced, never belonged to anyone but the universe itself. Lyra ran ahead with her friend, collecting shells and inventing games. Human couples passed them, some with children, some without, all engaged in the simple act of being together. "Your people are strange," Venna said, but her tone made it a compliment. "You choose love over profit, beauty over efficiency, connection over logic. By galactic standards, you should be weak. Maybe we are, but we're happily weak together, and that seems to work out." "It does seem to." She moved closer, her shoulder brushing his as they walked. "Thank you, Daeho, for showing me that life can be about more than transactions. That some things, the best things, cannot be bought or sold." He thought about the trade deal that failed, about the diplomatic chaos that followed, about all the logical reasons his choice had been impractical. Then he thought about the child running ahead, still able to feel beauty so intensely it made her heart too big for her body. He thought about the woman beside him, learning to live freely for the first time. He thought about his crew, proud to serve on a ship that valued principles over profits. "You know what's funny?" he said. "The consortium thought they were offering us a good deal. Technology for art. They couldn't understand why we'd refuse." "They still do not understand," Venna confirmed. "I have heard from former colleagues. They view humanity as irrational." "Good. Let them. Because we got something far more valuable than whatever technology they were offering." "Why is that?" He stopped walking, turning to face her fully. The sunset painted her purple skin in shades of gold and crimson, making her look like a living work of art. we kept our souls. We stayed human, and we found out we're not alone in the universe, that there are others who value beauty and wonder and love. We found you and Lyra. That's worth more than any trade agreement. Vena's luminous eyes shimmered with emotion. In my culture, there is a phrase for when someone gives you a gift so precious, you can never repay it. It translates roughly to my heart is in your debt. In my culture, we'd say you don't owe me anything. You just pay it forward. Pay it forward? It means you take the kindness you received and give it to someone else. Keep the cycle going. Maybe someday Lyra helps someone the way we helped her. Maybe you teach others what you've learned. The gift isn't a transaction, it's a ripple. She considered this, then nodded slowly. I like human philosophy. It is inefficient and impractical and completely beautiful. They continued walking as stars began appearing overhead. The galaxy spread above them, full of species and civilizations, trade routes and power structures, all a complex machinery of interstellar society. But here on this beach, none of that mattered. What mattered was the sound of waves, the laughter of children, the warmth of connection between two people learning each other's rhythms. Daihon knew that tomorrow he'd return to his ship, to new missions and new challenges. The diplomatic fallout from the failed trade deal would continue for years. Humanity would have to forge new alliances, prove itself in a galaxy that valued profit over principle. It wouldn't be easy, but tonight, walking on the beach with a former counselor who chose freedom and her daughter, who could still feel beauty in her bones, he was certain they'd made the right choice. Some things were worth more than technology or power or convenience. Some things, love, art, wonder, connection, were worth everything. Lyra ran back to them, holding out a perfect spiral shell. Look, is it not beautiful? It's gorgeous, Daihon agreed. I'm going to keep it forever, she declared. Because beautiful things should be treasured, not sold. Vena met his eyes over her daughter's head, and they shared a smile that needed no translation. In that moment, Daihon knew that while the trade deal had failed, something far more valuable had been born proof that humanity's approach to life, that stubborn insistence on the pricelessness of beauty and love, could change hearts across the stars. The galaxy might value transactions, but humans would continue to value connections. And slowly, one heart at a time, they would teach the universe that some things were simply not for sale.